Hi guys, my name is Jazmin Lui. You may have seen me in other live surgery videos with Bites, whether I was the host or doing the surgery myself, usually with my father, Dr. Albert Lui. I am so excited to be part of Bites' 20th anniversary celebration. What me and many others have learned from Bites has been invaluable for me as a dentist, and I'd like to give back and share my experience as someone who has started my implant journey fairly recently. During my time at Bites Institute, I've also met a lot of you who are, like me, an associate. And this is a very common thought that I hear. I would love to start doing implants, but my principal already does them. How would I convince patients to do the implants with me instead? Or, my office doesn't offer implants, we refer everything out. How can I start doing them? Whether that procedure is a crown or an implant, it's something that we've all struggled with in our careers. So I'd like to share with you what helped me and how I went from being a new grad in 2017 to placing implants regularly as an associate in a general practice. My story begins in Calgary, Alberta. I had lived in the prairies my whole life, and I was certain I wanted to leave my hometown when it came time to go to university. Like many overachievers, I thought I would become a doctor. I took the pre-med program at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, but eventually realized I wanted a career that would give me more work-life balance. I worked as a steri-tech in my father's office during the summers. Seeing the way that my father interacted with patients and the surgeries that he was doing made me fall in love with the profession. I was accepted to New York University, where I met my husband Andreas, and we both graduated in 2017. By that time, I had been away from my family for 8 years and realized that Calgary was actually a pretty amazing place to live. I moved back and started working at Canada Place Dental in late 2017. I'll admit, I'm in a unique situation. My father is the principal dentist. But not only that, he's been building his implant practice for the last 15 years. He's been laser focused on making implants his bread and butter. In fact, 80 to 90% of his procedures are surgery. And not only that, he's been seeing his patient base for more than 20 years. How can I, a freshly graduated dentist, compete with that? Today, we are going to go through my 4 tips on building your implant practice as an associate. Let's look at number 1, building trust. First, I had to look at what made my principal successful in the first place. Number 1, his patients trusted him. He had always been able to make his patients feel safe and cared for. Maya Angelou once said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So I worked on making personal connections with whoever was in the chair. Avoid Avoid the small talk. Try to go beyond how's it going. Be more specific and ask about their family, trips they've taken recently, personal projects or hobbies, what they're planning to do for upcoming holidays or celebrations. Be genuinely curious and find out what they're passionate about. Approach them as if you were learning from them. Make notes about it in their chart and ask for updates the next time you see them. If you do something like an extraction or a tough filling, you can do follow-up calls with them the next day. Checking in and showing patients that you care will pay off in more ways than one. And in this case, this was something that my dad was already doing, and I had to be at his level, if not more so, for the patients to see that I was just as invested in their well-being as he was. The same also goes for your staff members. We all know that the minute we walk out of that exam room, the patient will start asking way more questions to our assistants. As an associate, you have to take the time to get to know them and treat them well. And the chances are, if your assistants like you, they're more likely to be confident talking about you with the patient. So you can do little things like remembering your staff's birthdays, giving gifts at Christmas. These are cookies that I made for all my staff members last year. Writing meaningful cards are great ways of building those relationships. Once you establish trust with your staff as well as your patients, they are more likely to accept your treatment plans, including implants. Tip number 2, investing in continuing education. Now, whether it's through Bites Institute or other programs, make sure you are taking a course that goes through the fundamentals of placing implants. It's very tempting to go to other courses which advertise a lot of hands-on surgical experience right away, placing 50 implants in over a week, and probably near a nice sunny beach to take a break afterwards. While that may get your confidence up, I would caution you, you will never see the long-term outcomes of those surgeries. So you will not know if the implant you placed was truly successful. Sure, you got great torque, but what about the soft tissue around the implant? Was there enough bone? When the implant is restored, did you position it so it could be a screw-retained crown? In practice, you are going to be responsible for those long-term outcomes. And it's never a fun day when you see a patient that is showing, thread loss or bone exposure on a implant that you placed maybe even just a year ago. So I would encourage you to first find a program that covers diagnoses, contraindications, CT planning, implant prosthetics, and bone grafting at the minimum. To be honest, many people ask me why I went to the Bites Comprehensive Implant Residency. I had my father. Wasn't that better and a whole lot cheaper than doing a residency program? But CIR was a more systematized way of learning, and each session built my knowledge layer by layer. Don't get me wrong, my dad was a great mentor, and I'd seen a lot of his implant surgeries at this point. But after taking CIR, I had a much better idea of when to use different techniques, recognizing red flags earlier than later, and gaining the knowledge of not just one dentist, but many. For those whose principals may not have the time to mentor them, the Bites faculty offers that. They are some of the most down-to-earth, approachable people that I know, and they will always try to find time to look at your cases, talk you through your worries, and set you up for success. Bites Institute has completely changed my dental career and given me access to a community that not only do I continually learn from, but supports me, makes me laugh, and helps me feel like I'm not alone. Our faculty has such a wide range of experience, from complex full arches to delicate soft tissue grafting to expert wisdom tooth removal. You'll always be able to find someone who can answer any questions that you have. And what all of this gives you, this quality CE, is hopefully the confidence to start talking to your patients about implant treatment, the pros and cons, what they can expect going through the procedure with you, and why you would be the best person to do it for them. After a foundational residency is when those hands-on courses will make the most impact. Armed with the knowledge, but maybe still wanting more supervised surgery, these courses will give you a feel for drilling bone, laying flaps, and placing implants. Getting as much experience as you can with complicated and surgical extractions will also go a long way in making you feel comfortable with implant surgery. I took a 4-day surgical residency that is run by WOPES, or the World Academy of Ultrasonic Piezoelectric Bone Surgery, run by Dr. Dong-Suk Seon, and each person was able to do 3 to 4 surgeries a day, which included sinus lifts, immediate implants, full arch implants, and GBR. I've also heard Bites Institute may also be introducing an externship program soon, so stay tuned for more details. My third tip is to be available and master emergency treatment. My principal was often booked months in advance for implant treatment, and that gave me the advantage of being available for immediate emergencies. When patients are in pain, any reluctance they may have to see you instead of their principal will be overshadowed by their desire to do whatever it takes to make the pain go away. This is your chance to do one of the most gratifying things that we can do in dentistry, which is getting someone out of pain. Be ready to tackle any extraction that comes your way. You can even ask the receptionist to block off your schedule for emergencies every week so that availability is always there. I would also say that learning how to do immediate implants, where you extract the tooth and place the implant on the same visit, is crucial if you want to capitalize on that advantage that you have. Here's a case where my patient started having pain on his 3-6 tooth. As you can see, he has had implants before, so when we diagnosed a tooth fracture, he was already thinking of an implant, and he wanted that tooth extracted ASAP before the pain got worse. So we got him a CT scan, we looked and planned and saw that there was enough bone to do the immediate implant. And then 1 week later, I was able to extract the tooth for him really cleanly. And then we got to place an implant for him. So we saved him the additional 5 months if we had just extracted the tooth and socket graft. And he was really grateful that we were able to get him out of pain. So if you're not quite comfortable with immediate implants, learning PRF and socket preservation is still a good alternative. Think about it. This is your chance to really wow a patient. They are getting a first-hand experience of you and your skills as a surgeon. And if you can make them feel at ease and comfortable, they're far more likely to return to you for treatment. Doing PRF is one of the few techniques that can make you really stand out as a dentist who is using cutting-edge technology and can be used in any extraction case, whether the patient wants socket preservation or not. By extracting the patient's blood, centrifuging it, we can isolate white blood cells and either use it as a healing plug or mix it with bone graft. It's a very easy concept for patients to understand and will make them feel more confident that you are a dentist that can handle these advanced procedures. Here's a case that I did for a patient who was interested in an implant, but he needed some time to get his finances in order. We diagnosed that he had a cracked tooth on the 1/6 or the first molar, and he said, I'm not ready to fully do the implant now, but if we can do something that'll set me up to do it in a few months, then that would be great. So I said, okay, let's do socket grafting. That way we can preserve the bone. And then when you're ready down the road, we'll have lots to work with and put the implant in for you. So after extracting the fractured molar, we used sticky bone and a non-resorbable membrane to do the socket grafting. He was amazed at how painless the recovery was, and he was very impressed with the PRF technology. And so he booked his implant treatment for the spring, and he's excited and ready to go. The healing looked great when I saw him 2 weeks post-op. And you can see here in the x-ray, we've got really great bone that is going to give us a lot of room to do an implant for him. After you've finished any emergency appointment, whether it's a root canal, open and drain, or an implant or an extraction, always give your patient a call the day after. At this point, don't let your receptionist make this call. Do it yourself and check in and ask the patient if their pain is better. 10 times out of 10, I promise you, the patient is going to be impressed that you, the dentist, is actually calling them. And they will say most of the time, yes, I am feeling better than I was before I saw you, and I'm so grateful. This is probably one of my #1 practice building tips. It can really make you stand out from other dentists. Most of them will never have had a personal call from a dentist before, and they'll remember it. It'll help build trust and rapport with them, and honestly, it doesn't take much time from you. It just requires a quick phone call, less than 5 minutes, and then you say, glad to hear that you're feeling better, and I'll see you in a week. So if you're going to do one thing after this lecture, I hope this is going to be the one you pick. The 4th tip is simple. Become very familiar with the implant workflow at your practice. And if it's not in place, it's time to start working with your staff to establish one. Booking an implant, you might think, is just first you get the scan, then you make a treatment plan, and then boom, let's just book the implant. It's not as easy as that. First, the patient needs a CT scan, that's true. But then they need their treatment plan. Which codes are you going to use? How much time will you need scheduled? And are you offering sedation for your patients? Who's in charge of getting the patient's prescriptions ahead of the surgery? Does the patient need a surgical guide? And if so, was the intraoral scan taken? When will the follow-up appointments be booked? All of these questions need to be answered and internalized by you and your staff, so that if anyone is asked, they should all have the same consistent answer. If your patient senses disorganization or steps of the process get missed leading up to the surgery, for example, oh, I forgot to take the scan, we have to bring him back so that we can make the surgical guide. Oh, I forgot to send the prescription, we'll have to try to get him to fill them, the morning of the surgery. You'll immediately shake that patient's sense of confidence in you and the office. And don't assume that if those processes are in place for your principal, that they will automatically be done for you. In my case, new staff were hired to work with me, but they were not immediately trained on the implant workflow because I wasn't doing implants yet. And when they asked me what the workflow was, I barely knew how it worked because the treatment coordinators usually took care of everything behind the scenes. It was a big learning moment for all of us, especially after we booked that first implant appointment and then realized we had no idea how to set everything up. One way that we have organized our implant workflow is by using Monday.com. This is a project management software. Normally, companies use this so that multiple people working on a project can assign people to specific tasks. And then as people complete each of those tasks, you can track the progress of the whole project. We use this software to track the implant workflow of each patient. Assistants, treatment coordinators, and doctors get assigned certain tasks, and then we complete them as we go. Anyone can check this checklist from any computer that has access to the internet, so we can cross-reference and make sure that everything is done up to a certain point at the patient's appointment. You could also do this with a physical checklist, but the idea is there. Every person goes through the same checklist, and then each step, someone is taking accountability for it. So that's it. 4 ways to build your implant practice as an associate. 1, building relationships with patients and staff. 2, taking quality continuing education on placing and restoring implants. 3, be available and proficient at emergency procedures. And 4, know your office implant workflow inside and out. I hope I've given you new ideas and tools that you can start using as soon as you get back into the office. Please feel free to reach out to me or any of the BITES faculty. We have our Facebook group, BGIN, the BITES Global Implant Network, and I would love to hear your stories about your implant journeys. Thank you.